morning. Marcus Conte reporting. How are you? How are you? How are you? That was our entertainment for the morning. How are you? Hey, man. So welcome everybody. Today is it's a new day in our lives together. It's Wednesday, October 12th. Wednesday, October 12th, in the year 2022. And it looks like at face value, the good Tulsi Gabbard. You remember Tulsi Gabbard, the sexy presidential campaign from Hawaii? Aloha, she would say. She'd meditate and say aloha. And she ran for president in 2020, standing next to Bernie Sanders, her hero, and did a little damage to Kamala Harris and Joe Biden, but it doesn't matter because that's not what it's about anymore. It's about who the ruling class picks to be president of the United States. However, Tulsi Gabbard, I don't think she sees it that way. What a coincidence. Tulsi Gabbard has her own show, has declared herself broken away from the Democratic Party. I am no longer a Democrat. I cannot no longer live under these types of woke rules that don't make sense anymore. They're taking away our religion. They're taking away everything that we care about. So it does look like Tulsi Gabbard is quite possibly making another run for president. Now, how do we run for president these days? We say, I'm not running for president, but you start to look presidential. You have your own show. You're on the talk shows bashing the other party. And at some point, will the leftover Jimmy Dore, Nina Turner type Susan Sarandon progressives coalesce behind the new Tulsi Gabbard, who is more really in line with Tucker Carlson? She doesn't need those jerk-offs anymore. Tulsi Gabbard has found a way to not need the young jerks, Turks, or Jimmy Dore, really. She's out there on Joe Rogan. She's top shelf now. Can Tulsi Gabbard effectively run and win the presidency of the United States? I don't think so. I think she would be an amazing candidate. I think she could probably win over the majority of the people in America to believe she's the right pick. But we live in the United States of America where that doesn't really matter. You could believe that it's one person, one vote. But essentially, one person with $1 million is like 10,000 votes. AKA Democratic super electorates. Super electorates. You remember those? They're super. They have the power of 10,000 votes. So Tulsi Gabbard, she's in the news, and we'll look at that. She's a very interesting character. She's saying all of the right things. Whether I'm wrong in seeing it as a run for presidency or not, what she's saying is lovely and fascinating and spot on. So we'll look at that. What else? A little bit on Joe Biden defending his darling son, his child, the childish Hunter Biden, his second born, right? The firstborn, the second one died. Bo fucking jumped off a bridge or something. I don't know how Bo Biden. Oh, Bo, I love you, Bo. You ever hear Joe Biden do that? Bo, I love you, Bo. I know you meant well, and I'm down here on Earth, and someday we'll be together. But right now, I got to be president, and your fucking brother is an asshole, Hunter. He doesn't know how to keep his mouth shut and take the money. So anyway, then we'll maybe look at the markets at 9:30. Good morning, everybody in the chat. Mad Cow Marcus here. Weevil Girl. Jim Gerard. Vinny DiMartini on the wrench. Suit Cooter is here. William Smith. Champs. And everybody else who happens to be lurking. Who else? Yeah, a couple of new faces. Well, thank you all for being here, and it is a interesting quest as we move towards the November midterm elections. Who's going to win? Who's not going to win? I don't know. I don't know what winning means anymore. I think it's two parties that switch hats. What I do see though is a Democratic Party who, in my view, wasn't the pick of the people. In 2016, the Democratic Party clearly picked Sanders. In 2020, it looked like they picked Sanders again, but we got instead Hillary Clinton and then Joe Biden, two corporate picks that are, you know, they're hands-off type of leaders. And that's a bad place to be. The opposite of that is Trump, who was hands-on. He was in the front, leading, as opposed to, you know, people like Hillary Clinton and Joe Biden that they lead from behind, and whoever gives them the most money is who they let get out in front. And that is the state of it. I believe you got to get rid of that. I believe anything that challenges that type of, setup right now must be gotten rid of. Can Joe Biden successfully run another presidential campaign at 82 years old, and people are going to vote for him, and he's going to be 86, showing signs of senility? Can he win? The answer is, of course he can win. Why? Because that's the system we have, right? The system is geared towards a continuation of the policies and procedures of the Democratic elite. Can the Republicans successfully wrestle it away with a candidate like Trump or DeSantis? Yes. Yes, they can. The Republicans are incredibly capable of cheating just as much. Did I say cheating? Did I say cheating? The Republicans are astute enough to outwit the dirty Democrats and declare victory. Yes, they are. But if Tulsi Gabbard aligns herself as an independent, that would be a failure. Now, here's what Tulsi Gabbard has not done, and now that I'm talking about it for a full 5 minutes or 8 minutes, I realize what Tulsi Gabbard needs to do is what Trump did. Align yourself with the Republican Party. Declare yourself a presidential candidate in the Republican Party. Because a lot of what Tulsi Gabbard is saying is straight out of the Republican narrative right now. Tulsi Gabbard's mind is in line with everything Tucker Carlson on Fox News and other commentators on Fox News is voicing. So she would have a better chance of winning if she. Could you imagine what a strategy, right? That's what Trump did. What a fucking strategy. Most Republicans, declared Republicans, don't trust neither Republican or Democrat. But if a strong voice comes along, a populist like Trump or Tulsi Gabbard, you've got the potential to win. So Tulsi Gabbard, who I wasn't a fan of. I fluctuate in and out of what she says. My fundamental problem with Tulsi Gabbard is that in 2002, Tulsi Gabbard got on a plane in an American war uniform as a soldier and went over to Iraq and killed Iraqis because she thought Bush was correct in saying that Iraq had weapons of mass destruction. She was as duped then as some people are duped today. And so that error in judgment, in my view, will forever remain. Now you could say, well, times are different then. No, I was there. I'm older than Tulsi Gabbard. I'm older than Tulsi Gabbard, and I was there in 2020, when Bush declared, war against Iraq for knocking down the buildings, weapons of mass destruction, got to kill Saddam Hussein. None of it made sense then. And it just didn't make sense, right? That was not, millions of people saw it. Millions of people saw it, Tulsi Gabbard. Millions of people knew that what Bush was saying was incorrect. And not only did you agree with Bush, you got on a plane with an army suit ready to defend your country. So a little bit of a bad judgment there. So we'll continue there, and let's. I got a website. My name is Marcus Conti, and this is when I used to walk around Washington Square Park. A lot of people yearn for my nature walks. I see your comments in the down below the videos, and say, Conti, oh man, it was like heaven watching you walk around and speak your mind outside. I might do that again. I'm just not in New York City anymore. I might do it in the woods. I can do that. I like walking around and talking. It's just where I am, it's hard to do it live because of the technology. But maybe again. I'll give you what you want, man. I'll give the people what you want. This is my thumbnail today. I'm leaving the Democratic Party, Tulsi Gabbard suggests, and Hunter Biden's like, fuck that shit, man. Yo, can you imagine? You're at a back-end party, right? Tulsi Gabbard's running for president, and Hunter Biden stumbles up trying to pick her up. I think Tulsi Gabbard is married. She's a meditation Buddhist, too, I believe, or a Hindu or something like that. And Hunter's like, hey, man, I love chicks that meditate, man. You want to hit? Imagine that. Hunter Biden hitting on Tulsi Gabbard, and Tulsi Gabbard saying, she has that laugh. That's Tulsi Gabbard's laugh. So anyway, that's my thumbnail today. And so let's listen to Tulsi Gabbard in her own words. We'll start it off.
I can no longer remain in today's Democratic Party that's under the complete control of an elitist cabal of warmongers who are driven by cowardly wokeness, who divide us.
Wow, big words for Tulsi Gabbard. Warmongers, cowardly wokeness. New phrases coming out of Tulsi Gabbard's camp.
Complete control of an elitist cabal of warmongers.
Cabal of warmongers.
Who are driven by cowardly wokeness.
Driven by cowardly wokeness. I know I'm repeating myself because I'm trying to understand what she's saying. And that's how I do it. So let's continue.
Who divide us by racializing every issue and stoking anti-white racism.
Whoa! Racializing every issue and stoking white racism. Whoa.
Racism.
White racism.
Racism.
Whoa.
Who actively every issue and stoking anti-white racism.
Anti-white racism. No, really? Really? Is the woke Democratic Party stoking anti-white racism? You bet your fucking ass they are. Get your white privilege out of here. You got white privilege. White privilege.
Who actively work to undermine our God-given freedoms that are enshrined in our Constitution. Who are hostile to people of faith and spirituality.
Oh, yes, they are hostile to people of faith and spirituality. She's talking about the Democratic Party. She's talking about people like Joe Biden, Hillary. You know what kind of an attack Tulsi Gabbard is going to take? She's going to be the poster child for Russian assets. Tulsi Gabbard, she's a piece of Putin's war game. She's an asset.
Who demonize the police but protect criminals at the expense of law-abiding Americans. Who believe in open borders. Who weaponize the national security state to go after their political opponents. And above all, who are dragging us ever closer to nuclear war. Now, I believe in a government that's of the people, by the people, and for the people.
Yeah,
Unfortunately,
I do too.
today's Democratic Party does not. Instead, it stands for a government that is of, by, and for the powerful elite.
Right. Now, Tulsi, I beg to differ about it is the powerful elites, but who is the powerful elite? See, that switches back and forth, right? Is it Jamie Dimon who's actively instructing his traders to short the market so it goes down and they profit from it and then buys it when it's down and it rockets back up? Is it people that manipulate markets like that, like again, Jamie Dimon, or is it the political class, or is it the CEOs of the top, Nasdaq 100 or the S&P 500 CEOs, or run, the people that control the Dow Jones Industrial stocks, those industries? Who are you fucking talking about when you point to the powerful elite? Right? That's a nothing phrase, by the way.
For the powerful elite.
The powerful elites. Okay. All right. Well, we have to start naming them. You have to name them. You have to say this. Like I do it all the time. I tell you all the time.
Now, I'm calling on my fellow common sense, independent-minded Democrats to join me in leaving the Democratic Party.
Wow. Tulsi Gabbard calling on fellow Democrats to leave. But where are they going? See, there's no mention of her running for president, but she's coming out looking presidential, saying all the things that a presidential candidate would say at the right time.
If you can no longer stomach the direction that the so-called woke Democratic Party ideologues are taking our country, then I invite you to join me.
All right, Tulsi, I'll join you, man. I'm in. What do I have to do? Where do I sign? Do I get a membership card? Am I in a new party? People love that. They love to be, oh yeah, join me over here. We're in our party, in our little gathering, and then, and we'll take care of you. You'll feel good. You'll feel comfortable. You'll feel like you're working for something. You're working towards something we shall overcome. Tulsi Gabbard is telling her people. Before we dive more into Tulsi, check this out. Elon Musk has 10 children, with another baby looming. This is an interesting guy, man. You gotta admit, right? You gotta admit that Elon Musk is a fascinating man. This guy's got $50 billion, right? He now owns Twitter, right? He's got a huge mouthpiece, right? Now, will Twitter become of the people, by the people, and for the people, as Tulsi Gabbard says? Probably not. It'll be of Musk, by Musk, and for Musk eventually. But Musk seems to be able to deflect and stay on top pretty darn good. But he's reproducing. So that's an interesting fact. When a man with all that money just keeps impregnating women to produce more and more of him. Right? Isn't that fascinating? Look at all his kids. He's got kids up the ass, man. He's got kids everywhere. Fucking piles of kids. Look at all the kids I got, man. I got kids. It's fascinating, man. I find this guy is amazing. He's an amazing dude, man. I like his shirt, too. What does his shirt say? Space power. Space power, man. He's going to fucking space. There he is, going to space. La 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 la. So anyway, Elon Musk got 1 million kids, right? So let's listen to Joe Biden. Joe Biden reacts to the investigation into his son. His son, Hunter Biden. Why did he name his kid Hunter? Right? That's a fucking violent name. What are you, Hunter? Why not Angel or Jesus? Right? Spanish people always name their kids Jesus, Jesus. Why did you name your kid Hunter? And what the fuck does Bo mean? Why did you, Joe Biden? Why? That's the question you want to ask him. After you ask him, is your fucking mind, what does it feel like to have an 80-year-old mind failing? The next thing you ask him is, why did you name your son violently Hunter? Because hunters kill, right? Or hunt down people.
Our reporting, CNN's reporting, and the Washington Post reporting suggests that prosecutors think they have enough to charge your son Hunter for tax crimes and a false statement about a gun purchase. Personally and politically, how do you react to that?
So the question is, your son is a mess. He lied about his drug use and got a gun, and the other stuff, and he's a drug addict.
First of all, I'm proud of my son. This is a kid who got, not a kid, he's a grown man. He got hooked on, like many families have had happen, hooked on drugs. He's overcome that. He's established a new life. He is, I'm confident that what he says and does are consistent with what happens.
Did you hear what he just said? I'm confident that what he says and does
are consistent with what happened. He says, and he is, I'm confident that what he says and does are consistent with what happens.
What he says and does is consistent with what happens. What the fuck does that mean? It doesn't mean anything. That's the point. Well, it's consistent. I believe what comes out of his mouth is consistent with what he does. Well, are they good deeds or bad deeds? It appears that he's trying to run away from his quid pro quo with you, and
for example, he wrote a book about his problems and was straightforward about it. I'm proud of him. He came along and said, by the way, this thing about a gun, I didn't know anything about it, but turns out that when he made my application to purchase a gun, what happened was I guess you get asked, you get asked the question, are you on drugs, you use drugs? He said no. And he wrote about saying no in his book. So I have great confidence in my son. I love him.
Mm-hmm. Were you when they asked him, do you use and take drugs? No, I take them later. It's only 9 a.m. in the morning. I'll take them about the moment I walk out of this office. I'll be taking drugs.
And he's on a straight and narrow, and he has been for a couple of years now. And I'm just so proud of him.
You're about to turn 80 next month. Happy birthday.
I don't want to get into that. That's Jake Tapper pushing Biden on his age. Who gives a shit, right? Look, Joe Biden is going to run. Joe Biden is going to run for president. Now, is there somebody that can knock him out of the box, right, where he bows out, where he says, someone approaches and says, Joe, give it to Camilla. Camilla will carry the flame for us. And they'll push the black woman narrative, to death. They'll push it and push it on you. And if you don't vote for her, you're a fucking racist, man. You are white privilege, motherfucker. You don't like her. You don't like Camilla because she's black. And that's the reason you don't like her. Not because she's incompetent and stupid and a fucking racist. So what else? What else we got? I don't even want to talk about. So let's go back to Tulsi Gabbard, fascinating human being, fascinating woman, making a lot of waves. You gotta admit, Tulsi Gabbard knows how to shake it up. She's everywhere. She declared herself. She said the right thing. Run away from the Democratic Party. That's what she's saying. Let's listen.
For coming on, that was quite a statement. I'm listening to this and I'm thinking, we have Republicans on the show from time to time. They don't put it as clearly and bravely as you do. So how do you feel? I mean, you've been in this party a long time. You were its future. You left. I mean, this has got to be kind of a fraught moment for you.
Tucker, as you know, I've always been an independent-minded person, a Democrat, yes, but an independent Democrat. And my loyalties are very clear. I love our country. And I took an oath both as a service member, as a soldier, as well as a member of Congress, to support and defend the Constitution.
Defend the Constitution, but you had it wrong, Tulsi, when it came, I'm going to keep pointing it out. I'm not going to let it go. I'm not going to let it go. I want to hear Tulsi Gabbard say, all right, I used poor judgment with Bush Jr. and Iraq. And Saddam Hussein was a motherfucker, but we wrongfully invaded his country and caused instability in the Middle East, costing us billions and trillions of dollars and a million people dead. Thank you, Tulsi Gabbard.
And that's an oath that I take extremely seriously. And so when you look at this party, the today's Democratic Party, it's controlled by fanatical ideologues who hate freedom. They despise the Constitution. They actively find ways to undermine our God-given rights enshrined in the
Tulsi, it's actually a little more, it's more simplistic than that. It's not that they hate freedom. They work for the other side. Right? They work to promote the Democratic Party. And how does the Democratic Party operate? They attack anybody who disagrees with them. Right? A lot of them are just political hacks. And the people at the top say, well, it benefits me. Right? If fucking everybody's attacking, I don't have to do it. I don't have to attack anybody. I got paid trolls attacking people for me. Right? There's a different reality to it. Right? Listen again what she says.
An oath that I take extremely seriously. And so when you look at this party, the today's Democratic Party, it's controlled by fanatical ideologues who hate freedom. They despise the Constitution. They actively find ways to undermine our God-given rights enshrined in the Constitution, like freedom of speech. If you say something and I say something that they don't like, instead of saying, you know what, agree to disagree, live and let live in the traditional liberalist kind of way, no, that's not good enough. They will do all that they can to destroy you, silence you, smear you, work with big tech, work with corporate media to actively destroy anyone who dares to even question their agenda.
Right. Right. And I love that people in the chat are pointing out, Mad Cow Mark says, don't trust their gut feeling. I get that. I get that sense too. What else? Somebody said, you can't blame him. Johnny Half says, any dad, that's for somebody else, that causes neither side. Somebody, don't trust it. Somebody, show. She has her own show. Somebody said something. I don't know what somebody said. I lost it. I'm sorry.
They are against freedom of religion. They are hostile towards people of faith, people who have their own spiritual practice, especially Christians, finding ways to be
that's a good point. Colossal Bigfoot says they don't hate freedom. They just don't want you to have it, right? All right, because the more you have, the less they have. That's rather accurate too. Right? Marcus Conte for president.
Addictive to discriminate, to punish people who happen to exercise that freedom of religion. The list goes on, but the foundation of freedom is really what was at the heart of my making this decision that I cannot.
You know what, Tulsi, you're so full of contradictions. I can't even count them. You know, there's so many of them. But I don't know.
Be a member of a party that is against freedom and actively trying to undermine it.
Well, it was inspiring to hear that, but also disappointing. I mean, I feel like printing out your words and asking every Republican candidate who comes on this show to read them. And if you can't read them, I'm not voting for you. Right? I mean, why is it so hard to say out loud? First of all, the people who are always talking about racism are committing it. Why is that so hard for people to acknowledge? It's so obvious.
It speaks to the whole environment of fear that those in power, these elitists in power, have fomented, to where people are afraid to speak the truth. They're afraid to exercise their right to free speech because, hey, you might lose your job, you might be canceled, you might be trashed, and God forbid in Washington, you might not be invited to the cool kids parties. You might not be as popular. And this is really what it comes down to, is rather than taking a stand for peace, for prosperity, security, and freedom of the American people, we have too many people in Washington who are warmongers, subservient to the military.
Oh, yeah. All those people over there in Washington, they're all warmongers. They love war. Well, why don't you name them specifically? Maybe she did. Maybe she did.
Industrial complex
Military.
and continuing to put their own selfish interests or the interests of their donors first, with no mind for the cost and consequence that their decisions have on the American people. This is exactly what we're seeing right now with President Biden and leaders in Congress whose decisions are actively pushing us to the brink of a nuclear holocaust, of which they may have their bunkers where they'll be safe, but we, the American people, will have no shelter, no place to go, no place to hide, and face the consequences that could destroy all of humanity and the world as.
It's the old us against them. It's us against them. It's all those people over there. Come join me. Am I wrong in saying it's a clear power grab? It's a good time to do it. It's right before the midterm election. She's out there. Let's see what else
we
she
know
said.
it.
You were the first person I heard say that back in February when this all started. I believed
That's why
you.
I ran
and
for president.
Well, it turns out you were absolutely right.
And that's why you're running for president again. You're running for president again.
Quick,
There, she said
since you
it.
did serve for so many years in the Congress, in the party you just left, you know everybody, of course. Has anyone called you today, your former colleagues, Democrats, to say anything to you?
One got in touch with me and sent me a text message with 3 thumbs up.
I would love to know who that is. But
Let's listen more.
Is Tulsi Gabbard, because remember she ran for president as a Democrat not too long ago. She just put out a couple of tweets that are going to have people wondering what's she up to, because she just tweeted, "I believe in a government that is of, by, and for the people. Unfortunately, today's Democratic Party does not. Instead, it stands for a government of, by, and for the powerful elite. I'm calling on my fellow common sense, independent-minded Democrats to join me in leaving the Democratic Party."
And go where, Tulsi? Why don't you tell people to take their money out of the bank and sink the economy? Why don't you tell people what Gandhi said? Stop contributing to it. Until the United States... Where did my video go? I fucked up. I missed it. Until people stop... Where did the video go? Where's the video, man? I got to watch a commercial. Stop contributing, Tulsi Gabbard, right? That's what you got to do. Tell people to stop what they're doing. And then you bring the system to a halt. Don't say, "Oh man, why don't you come and fucking join me over here, man, out in the brush."
Because, remember, she ran for president as a Democrat not too long ago. She just put out a couple of tweets that are going to have people wondering what's she up to, because she just tweeted, "I believe in a government that is of, by, and for the people. Unfortunately, today's Democratic Party does not. Instead, it stands for a government of, by, and for the powerful elite. I'm calling on my fellow common sense, independent-minded Democrats to join me in leaving the Democratic Party. If you can no longer stomach the direction that the so-called woke Democratic Party ideologues are taking our country, I invite you to join me."
Right. Where are we? I did it again. Where are we, Tulsi?
Tulsi Gabbard, 1 month before the election, is saying, "You know what? Goodbye, Democratic Party. I'm going someplace else." We don't know if she's going to declare herself an independent or a Republican, although she did speak at CPAC, I believe, 6 months ago.
Well, look, I think Tulsi is somebody who has always spoken her own mind. She's always been sort of an independent maverick. And I think when she ran for president, she realized how really isolated she was from the great majority of the Democratic Party, which is now, frankly, a pretty weird party. We said the same thing happened in a slightly different way in Philadelphia
Newt Gingrich called the Democratic Party a really weird party.
last week, where the former deputy mayor, a Democrat, endorsed Dr. Oz for the U.S. Senate and said that Fetterman is just so crazy on crime and so pro-criminal, he couldn't be for him. So I think you're seeing this drift, and we've certainly seen among Latinos, a huge drift towards the Republican Party as they're driven away by the weirder policies of the Democratic Party.
So there's Newt Gingrich, in my view, endorsing Tulsi Gabbard to come on over to the Republican Party. Now, at face value, you might say that that would destroy Tulsi Gabbard's, I guess her what she states she is. But in politics, you got to win, right? You're not going to win without the cheat machine behind you, without the people that count the fucking votes behind you. You ain't going to win, man. You ask Bernie Sanders about that. You run in the Democratic Party and they hatchet you if they don't like you.
Young people who make money are leaving New York, and Tulsi Gabbard leaving the Democrat Party.
Wow, fantastic! What else, Tulsi? Oh, let's listen to Tulsi on the Joe Rogan show.
With things like funding the Ukraine war with Russia. Please explain to people what that means and why we're sending so much money over to Ukraine.
So let's start with that. Let's start with the military-industrial complex. Okay. What is it? Who is it? It is these massive defense corporations who make all these different weapon systems, from the smallest to the most powerful nuclear weapons and missiles.
Right. So somebody like you can jump on a plane and go shoot those missiles at Iraqis, right? Because some jerk-off president said they have bigger weapons. That was what's in your mind. And don't tell me you were fucking too old and you were too young. Oh, I was too young to see it. The rallies in 2002. Yeah, 2002 and 3 in New York when Bush invaded Iraq were millions of people, and it wasn't just old people. It was everybody. I was, I don't know, 30 something, right? But there were kids there. There were, teenagers there saying, stop the fucking war, while you were putting on your boots ready to shoot at people with those military-industrial complex weapons at your disposal.
When we are at
That's called bad judgment, by the way.
War, they make a lot of money. When politicians, even if we're not at war but are threatening that we may go to war, they make a lot of money. And these decisions are not made within the context of, hey, what does our military actually need? What do we need to ensure that our military is ready to defend our country and our national security interests? It is very often what members of Congress are advocating for, even more than the military is asking for sometimes, because of those cozy relationships with the military-industrial complex. With these,
she points it out, right? Military-industrial complex, no doubt about it. Once the ball starts rolling, you can't stop it, right? Very accurate. Eisenhower informed us of that. Remember President Eisenhower? Be weary on his way out of presidency. Be very weary. His last speech. Be very weary of the military-industrial complex. Eisenhower told us about that. And here we are, fucking 70 years later, still talking about it. But people like you weren't listening. You weren't listening, Tulsi.
These massive defense contractors and their lobbyists. So there's a direct correlation as the money is.
She would be a good second fiddle to some president because she knows military strategy. She knows the mind of the military. She understands the complexity of war pretty good. I would agree with that. But she doesn't understand the origins of war. Right?
It's changing hands there. The problem is not with the Democratic Party, the Republican Party. On this issue, when you see so much divisiveness on tons of other issues facing our country, everything from infrastructure to education, all these other things, you see like, oh my gosh, Democrats and Republicans can't agree on anything. This issue of putting our country in a continual state of war is supported by leaders in both parties and the majority of people in both parties. And it's directly tied to the military-industrial complex's influence and tied to people who, want to act and look tough, but aren't asking the most important questions like, okay, if we do this, will this help the American people or hurt the American people? If we vote to...
Whenever you inflate a military, you always hurt the American people, Tulsi. You have to look out into the camera, look directly into the camera with all your power and say, hey, service members all over the world, American service members, lay down your arms and retreat. Stop what you're doing. Fight. If you want to fight, fight here in America, for America. Don't fight in the fucking Baltic Sea against the dirty Russians, funding the dirty Ukrainians. Stop it already.
Send these billions of dollars to Ukraine. Is that strengthening our national security?
You see, I like what Tulsi Gabbard is saying. However, it's predicated by extremely inconsistent behavior on the part of Tulsi Gabbard. Tulsi Gabbard supported Joe Biden. Tulsi Gabbard said, Joe Biden's better than the Republican. Really? You picked Joe. You knew that the Democrats were hatcheting the primaries, which they say openly that they do, that they picked the candidate, they picked Joe Biden, and you went along with that party. Right? You did. You went along with that party and said, vote for Joe Biden instead of the populist Trump. What a hypocrite. What a say one thing, do another thing you are, really.
Or undermining it. You'll hear a lot of rhetoric, especially recently, saying, hey, if we've got to send all this money to Ukraine, otherwise Russia's going to come and attack us.
Yeah, right. We know that. That's called propaganda. It's the fog of war, Tulsi. Thanks for educating us little people.
Here. Otherwise, our national security will be undermined. So they say all these things to foment fear in people's minds, but they're not rooted in reality.
Yeah, I know. All right, so I had enough of Tulsi Gabbard for right now.
Otherwise, Russia's going to come.
I got enough of that for now. Let's look at the market. See if I can't really take too much of her. I just when I listen to when I listen to Bernie Sanders, for the most part, I heard a guy who was consistent his whole career. He was saying the same things over and over. And then he turned around and said endorse Hillary Clinton, which flies in the face of all of that. So, he lost his mojo. Bernie lost his mojo back in 2016. So the markets are open. Check this out. Oh my God! Look, the Dow is up 69. Nasdaq up 34 in the morning. S&P 500 up 8. Apple up $1. Amazon green. Google green. Meta down a little bit. Facebook. Microsoft up a little bit. Rivian down a little bit. Tesla down a little bit too. It looks like a mixed open right now. Military industrial complex stocks. How you doing, man? You got your war. Raytheon and Lockheed Martin roaring. Looks like Lockheed Martin's down about 5 right now. I don't know what's going on over there. And Raytheon, these are the companies that Tulsi Gabbard is suggesting are making big money on war. So call them out. Call them out specifically. Go after Lockheed Martin. Go after Raytheon. Go after Boeing. Tell people to divest in these companies. Don't say, oh, I'm against war, and then you have, your ETF, or you go out and you buy Lockheed Martin because you think it's going to go up because there's a fucking war. And the same can be, the same is said about Pfizer, Johnson & Johnson, Moderna, right? Look, here's the difference. I tell you that, or maybe there isn't a difference, but I think there is a difference. I own, at this point, ETF with the expectation that the stock market will continue to grow over the years. Now, am I supposed to not see that and say, no, I'm not going to let them give me this money in the future because they're bad people? Or do I say, okay, well, the point is that I'm disclosing it to you. I believe that they're evil fucking people, and I also believe that evil is prevailing right now. I think I just hung myself by saying that, but that's all right. What do I care? It's my show. Right? I can do whatever I want. I hang myself on my own show. Anyway, so thank you all for joining me, and that's really all I got today, man. So Tulsi Gabbard, like it or not, I don't know what your opinion of her is. Why don't we, in closing, why don't we do it? Let's see. Tulsi, she's my gal. That's a 1. And Tulsi, she's full of shit. That's 2. What do we got, man? 1 is good. I love Tulsi. She's my girl. Or 2, she's just another fucking hypocritical politician like every other one. Inescapably trapped in the container of minds. Mad Cow Mark says she's full of shit.